I have to remember which button was my push to talk. There it is for disc or for OBS. And could one of you please check the live channel and make sure that we are actually live, please?
I've got it open. I do not see us live yet. There we go.
Huzzah.
Quickly mute myself. All right then. All set?
I think so.
Then welcome to episode 451 of PolyCast. I'm the Mean Team, joined by Mega Bears fan.
Oh no, he chose me first. I have to think of something quickly.
Whee! And Makalua.
Who also sort of has to think quicker because what?
We needed a shakeup. -1 stability.
You saw a comment. -1 stability.
Or is it 10 these days?
Oh, I don't know. That was always silly.
Well, now it runs on a -100 to 100 slider in the new game, so.
Oh God.
Yeah. One of many different mechanics in EU5.
Or as you like to call it,
Victoria Crusader Versailles 5, yeah.
Let's
It
just
definitely has
smash
elements
all of them together.
It has elements of all three games. It's not like quite as in depth in any one of them, but you can see the influence for certain with the dynasties of Crusader Kings and levies for that matter for the first few eras, and plenty of EU4 elements as well. And then of course you have the pop system, mostly lifted from Victoria with some changes. I don't know Victoria that well.
Well, changes to Civ since we have an update that was just back on the 27th. They are going to starts out with a little bit from Ed Beach that they are testing some dramatic what he's calling dramatic changes to the legacy pass and victories because they want to get that and open up some new paths for everybody to get to your victory. So it's not always the same old kind of thing because that's a Civ thing that even you get settled into what you do at a certain point. It's like, oh, I'm going to start this and take this tech and take this tech. They want to try and help you mix it up.
usually we have to wait for a full-fledged expansion pack to get like new victory conditions and stuff like that. So this is that's kind of a surprise that it might be coming in a patch or a free update.
Yeah, it sounds like there were some things maybe they didn't get to tweak earlier, and it's like they're like, well, we might as well.
Yeah, well, there's also a whole lot of trying to regain consumer good faith. So more stuff I think they are giving away for free than they had probably planned on doing before the game launched.
Yeah, which brings us to number 2, and then he says, and this one's been one of the most requested features from players. They're internally playtesting ways to play as one Civ continuously through the ages, so you can basically, what are they probably going to call it, classic mode maybe or something like that.
I would not be surprised. Yeah. And
yeah,
boy, how's that going to work?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess you would just make copies of that same Civ for each age, right? Would be the simplest way within the construct of the game.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a programmatic implementation kind of thing, but I'm talking about like mechanically because I kind of see two ways that they can go about doing this, and it really comes down to what are they going to do with the ages, right? Because even if you're still playing the same Civ throughout the whole game, presumably the age system is going to remain intact. So does that mean you're still going to have the hard stop at the end of one age and then skip past several hundred or 1,000 years and then start the new age, but you're the same Civ? And is it's got to be either one of two things. Either one, it's like a game mode or an option that you set before you start the game, and everybody has to play as the same Civ for all ages. Or is it going to be something more like what Humankind did, where at the start of the new age, you have the option to play as the same Civ that you played in the previous age, or you can change it if you want. Personally, my preference would be for the latter, for you to have the option to stick with with the same Civ. And maybe there's some like Humankind gives some extra benefit if you do that, because everything for the Civs are balanced for the particular eras in humankind, and in Civ 7 for the particular ages. So they would kind of have to give you something a little extra to make that Civ viable in an age that it wasn't designed for. Um, so yeah, how are they going to do that? I guess that's the big question. Or are they going to abandon the ages system as well and have a true continuous mode as well, which would truly be a classic mode?
That would almost make more sense because trying to have, because you'd almost have to recreate, because you're talking about that, you just have to recreate it for each age, but then that throws off the balancing because they're balanced into their ages, they're balanced around other things. So, oh, that would be an absolute nightmare, I think, to go the first way. The second way seems more like, yeah, to have a mode where everybody is one age. And then if you need to, you can tweak things thinking of that instead of having to go through and go, okay, well, like this Civ in this age gets this, and then they get that, and
Oh yeah, I can't imagine that they would like give each Civ like unique stuff for each age. that doesn't
yeah, that
that
would be
seems
an
like way
absolute
too much.
pain.
That's like a whole new game. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you, yeah. I don't know how you would. You would just have, it'd be like making civs repeatedly, like in recursive. Like I said, like
Just
the civs they have now, but times 4 just to add one if they did it that way.
yeah, I don't know that's way too much work for probably that. But in the
Yeah, you'd need
process of
some way to like generate and implement that for practically no cost. If you could, if such a thing existed, then maybe they could implement that. But otherwise, no, probably not.
yeah, but as part of that, they're going to start their own little thing called the Phyrexis Feature Workshop, where they're going to invite some of the community in to start testing the things early. They say you can go look in their Discord if you want to find out the details on trying to join in that. But it is probably also good for them to get fresh people in to test things because their playtest group is probably exhausted at this point, and even the outside, if they any other outside groups that they've been using up to now are probably also sick of it. So let's get some people in who really want to play the game and want to make it better to help us make it better.
I was thinking of doing that. Did they? I haven't done it yet though. Is there a like due date for when you have to register for that? That didn't already pass, did it?
I wouldn't think so. They're also talking about they're also talking about their slowdown over the Christmas break and stuff like that as well. So they may just be collecting the applications now and processing it maybe later on. I don't see anything on this page. Once again, you'd probably have to go to the Discord. And also, of course, a big subject to change stamp on everything. Disclaimer.
But yes,
But
if you're
speaking of
interested in being effectively a playtester for the game, by all means, go sign up. The more people who do it, the hopefully better the game will become. So even if and even if you're listening, if you're hearing this and you don't like Civ 7, don't let that stop you from signing up to do this because they probably want and need people who maybe don't like Civ 7 as much to provide some feedback. And then that would hopefully allow them to improve the game for the people for whom Civ 7 is a bit lacking. They'll want a little bit of both. They'll want people who like it. They'll want people who don't like it. So in either case, if you have any interest at all in doing this, please by all means go do it. The more people who do it, the better.
You were talking about the free stuff they were giving away. Hey, Tides of Power. Do you want to play Pirates in Civ? Yeah, here, you can play Pirates. And it's free for everybody to claim from November 4th when it goes live until January 5th. So you have all the next few months to go and grab it if you want to play it.
Can
But
you
they have added.
claim
What?
this if you don't already own the game?
I'm
The base
curious
game?
about that. I don't know.
I wonder if you can if you haven't bought the game yet, I wonder if you can still claim this. I don't know. I can't check that.
I might have to check that later since I don't yet. Um, but so the first part that came out here already in November, to the 14th right now, while we're recording, They've added two new Civ things for you. The Republic of Pirates, which I have seen somebody. What was it they combined? Pirates in Egypt, and that was a ridiculous amount of gold they were making. It was silly. And Tonga, along with Edward Teach, maybe better known for you as Blackbeard. And then four new wonders as well. When we get around to December, Ottomans and Iceland, and a lady whose name I'm afraid to try to pronounce.
I looked her up. I'm also not going to try to pronounce the name, but I believe she is a Moroccan privateer commander. So also sticking with the pirate theme. And I would not be surprised if the Iceland Civ is going to be a representation of the Vikings. So also sticking with kind of the pirate raider theme.
Yeah, if they're going to do it, that would be the time.
No, that does make sense. And I know Civ 6, the Ottomans have their own Corsair type things that go sailing, so that makes sense as well.
Yeah, the theme for this is pirates. Our ahoy!
And ocean, ahoy!
In fact, I was playing, and I don't know for sure if oh god, is it Gwendolyn Christie? Was that her name? The narrator. I don't know for sure if it is her still doing it or if it's someone else doing the loading screen narration for the Republic of Pirates. But she does it in a piratey accent, and it is really funny to listen to.
Complete with the "Aye, matey."
Yeah. Did you hear it too? Did you see the loading screen?
When I was talking, the person I was watching play that I saw that did the crazy thing with pirates in Egypt. Yeah, I had that loading screen, and even he was having a wait, what?
Yeah, it is still Gwendolyn Christie doing that, right?
I don't know. Even he wasn't sure. I don't think I've seen confirmation either way.
I imagine it must be, because she has been coming in and doing all the new recording. This isn't like a Civ 4 situation where they got Leonard Nimoy to do the vanilla game and then couldn't get him back for the expansions, and then all the tech quotes in the expansions are like some random dude who presumably worked for Firaxis who just recorded it, and it's a little bit jarring to go from one to the other. But
should have had Sid do it again.
Yeah, I think they had the foresight for Civ 6 and for Civ 5 and Civ 7 to make sure to put in the contract that the voice actor narrator would come back to do expansion and DLC content narration as well.
For a little more detail on what's going on, a new building and a new unit. You actually have a harbor now, finally. Feels like that should have been in the base game. Why do we not have a harbor before now?
Well, there's so many buildings that feel like they're just different names for harbor. I mean, you had the fishing quay, you have like the wharf, right? And then there's like I think a port later in the game. So it's just like they found every word for harbor that isn't harbor and made that a building in Civ 7. But the harbor is a big deal, and we'll be talking about it later, for sure.
Yeah, new water-based warehouse building. It is a base production yield and additional production on fishing boats, and it's now your spawn point for your naval units, like the way the barracks is used for land units. Which, yeah. And since you've got more things to do in the high seas, you've now got privateers. Because we're pirates now. We need privateers.
Yes, if your biggest complaint with Civ 7 was that it didn't have enough pirates, well, boy, have we got good news for you.
But with all of that comes new resources and new terrain types. They now have atolls in the deep ocean. Saying is that moving stopment terrain to create strategic choke points, and also a lotus terrain that's going to spawn in lakes. And then crabs, turtles, cowrie, which is a type of shell. Haven't heard of that before. And pitch, which is a new land-based resource. Because you need tar to seal up the ships to make them waterproof.
Yep.
And their final little bit was to update the naval combat. And prior to the update, all the naval combat was melee combat, but they added ranged units, and they've broken them up into light and heavy. Hopefully they've taught the AI how to use those. That's always a thing you have to wonder.
And I couldn't believe that wasn't in the game at launch. Like it was baffling to me to get into like the exploration age and find that there was just one naval unit line for like the entire age.
Yeah,
And
where's my big ships with tons of guns that do
yeah,
ranged?
right. And then even going into the modern age, like it was basically every ship in your fleet became a battleship, basically. Just nothing but battleships. And
They're
then
all
I mean
battleships. Nothing's.
there was also the submarine and like the aircraft carrier, which were like the only other ones. But like the aircraft carrier was treated more like a commander unit and less like an actual naval unit, and the submarine, of course, is like a specialty unit. So
Yeah, but that is a lot of stuff for something that's a free update.
oh yeah, again, this is the sort of stuff that I would have expected to see in a full expansion or a paid DLC. And I mean, it seems like this was planned to be a paid DLC, and again, they decided to give it away for free, at least for a limited time, in order to foster more good faith and get more people playing the game.
Yeah, because I did see a lot of people who had stopped playing Civ and gotten distracted by Victoria Versailles Crusader thing, but also come back to playing Civ for a little bit because they're like, "Hey, pirates!"
Right, and I have to say, like this is a huge improvement to the game. Like I have been playing it the last couple weeks. I played as Tonga, and I'm like maybe a third of the way or a quarter of the way through playing with the Republic of Pirates in the Exploration Age, and I had played both with the Blackbeard. And like not having a privateer unit or any sort of high seas piracy like in the game at launch was one of my biggest complaints with the game. Like especially considering the way that the game does kind of divide itself up into the three different mini games and having an entire game, an entire like basically mini game that's focused around high seas exploration, and one of the legacy slash victory conditions for that to be collecting treasure from distant continents and shipping them across the ocean back to your homeland. Like to not have pirates or privateers
Yeah,
to attack and capture that stuff, like being a threat at all, was like baffling to me. Like how did they not think to put this in the
yeah.
game?
How do you have the concept of a treasure fleet at all and not have the pirates and privateers who wanted to sack those things on their way back to Europe, like it happened in real life? Come on.
Right, like there was really hardly any threat at all to your treasure fleets in the vanilla game, because I mean, like maybe there might be some independent power ships floating around somewhere that might give you problems, but between the lack of enemy privateers that could harass your trade and treasure fleets, and the fact that like the maps were so predictable, like it was easy to guess where the distant land islands would be, and they're never very far from your territory usually anyway, because of the way that the map was kind of divided into vertical columns. Uh, just meant that like your treasure fleets weren't at risk of being attacked, and also even if they were, it kind of didn't matter because it takes 2 turns to cross the ocean anyway. So like either way, it kind of didn't matter. But now that we have actual privateers in the game, and we have new maps that are more varied and randomized, like the exploration age has a totally different feel to it now. Like you actually have to build a navy now, right? Because if you have any water-based stuff going on, like it's at risk against enemy privateers. Now, the one thing that the privateers can't do that I wish they could do is they are not allowed to actually pillage tiles. So, like, you don't have to worry about enemy privateers like coming into your territory and like pillaging your fishing boats or your wharfs or harbors or whatever. And I do think that is unfortunate. But if you do have seafaring trade routes, they are at risk. And if you have naval units just camping around. They are at risk. And this is a particular problem for the AI because the AI really loves to just shuffle their units around and they embark them and sail them around a few tiles and then disembark them. And they've been doing this. It's not just a Civ 7 problem. They've been doing that at least since Civ 5. We've all seen it where they just embark a unit for like no real good reason.
Especially in the middle of a battle for a city, and then oops, there went that unit.
Right. Well, now you don't even have to be at war with them. When you see the AI doing that, you just swoop in with your privateers, or if you're Ed Teach, with literally any naval unit, and sink it and get money from it.
Yoink.
It completely changes the dynamic. I do wish that the privateers could pillage, because then that would really mean that you have to build a defensive navy. Because even if your infrastructure is at risk, that just adds a whole new level to it. But that's not the case. I do have some hope that if the Iceland Civ does actually represent the Vikings, that one of their unique abilities, or perhaps their unique unit, will have the ability to pillage infrastructure without a declaration of war. But that's just pure speculation now, because I don't think they've said anything about what that's going to be able to do. But it's a lot of fun to play. Ed Teach is a lot of fun to play with. And the Republic of Pirates is a lot of fun. And I really liked the Tonga civilization as well. They were really cool because they have the ability to cross oceans in the antiquity. Which
so I was figuring was they were trying to pick some civilization from over in Polynesia type of region, because we've always had, since 4, we've had somebody who could do that.
Yeah, it's basically, I think they're similar to the Maori or Maori.
Mm-hmm.
It might even be the same, just a different name for the same culture. I'm not sure 100% though, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if they'll add enough passive benefits as well for just having the navies out there.
What do you mean about passive benefits?
Well, something straight from the new EU game is that just having your navy in friendly waters has a direct effect on your economy. That's extremely positive if you're a coastal nation that's relying on that for transport and control of your nation. And so I was wondering if you could implement something like that in a Civ game, where having a naval presence has an economic benefit in its own right, because your people trading feel safer and whatnot.
Yeah, nothing like that in Civ 7, except there are a couple of like promotions for the Navy commanders. There's some similar promotions for the Army commanders as well. But one of the Navy commander promotions is that you just generate 1 gold per turn for each unit that is packed into the commander. And there might have been one other thing. And then for the land Army commanders, there's a similar promotion. And then the Army commanders also have another promotion where they improve the yield of a city if they are stationed in the city.
Okay, so there are some features like that already.
And that was in vanilla, so that's not even a new thing.
We need more of that with the water, because ships were pretty important historically. Especially before rails, so much of nations' economies was on them, either through rivers or ocean.
Right. Yeah, and so it's not quite like that in Civ 7. Like, it's basically just you need them as defensive units now, because other Civs can now build privateers. Previously, there was like one way to build a privateer in Civ 7, and it was that you had to be a suzerain of a suzerain of one militaristic city state, and take a particular bonus that gave you a Corsair unit, and that unit was able to capture enemy ships. But I think you still had to have a declared war in order to do that. Whereas with the privateers, you don't have to be in a state of war to attack the other players. And if you're Ed Teach, all of your ships are pirate ships, So you are basically in a constant state of war with everyone all the time, effectively, if you are Ed Teach.
At least at the sea you are, yeah.
Yeah, and I have noticed that the AIs, like, they do not trust privateers at all. Even when I sailed into, I was trying to sail my ships like past friendly territory, like basically like just one ship. I had one ship that was trying to sail through their territory to get somewhere else, and like 3 of their galleys like just came out of their cities and attacked and sank it, even though they were like my friendly towards me. I don't think we were allies quite yet, but we were very friendly. We were trading. I think we had a joint war against someone else, and they were like, "Nope, no privateers in our waters, please." And there are also diplomatic repercussions for piracy. If you are attacking and sinking other civs' stuff, like it will have negative diplomatic modifiers. So you will make them angry. And in fact, if they attack your pirate ships, even unprovoked, you also get a negative modifier with them, which is kind of annoying, but like, whatever. So in that case, I did get like a -5 penalty or something like that because the other civ attacked my privateer unit.
I guess they suspect that it's you. They know.
Yeah, and one of the big differences as well, if you having privateer units that can do what they do in Civ 7 is something that I've been asking for. It's been one of my personal soapboxes in the Civ games for years, ever since Civ 5, because it's something that was in Civ 4, but in Civ 7 it works a little bit differently, because in Civ 4 the way that it worked was that the privateers also had hidden nationality, which meant that they appeared as barbarian ships to all other players.
Yeah.
That is not the case in Civ 7. In Civ 7, you know exactly what player controls the privateers, and there's like a tiny, barely noticeable icon above the ship that indicates that it is a pirate, has the pirate ability. So you know at sight, whether or not it's a potential threat. But yeah, they don't look like barbarians. You know exactly who is sending pirates after you, whether you choose to fight them or not.
Found the letters of marque. They know.
Right. I just noticed that this thing doesn't actually like really explain or list what all the uniques and abilities of each of these civs are. But basically, for Tonga, like their big ability is, they can cross ocean from the start of the game, but they are not allowed to disembark onto other continents, onto distant lands, and they are also not allowed to integrate city-states that are on distant land. In fact, they're not allowed to integrate city-states at all. And that's basically, I guess, to prevent you from being able to effectively settle distant land cities in antiquity and then already have them set up before going into the exploration age, because that would be completely broken. So they were clever enough with that. And then the Republic of Pirates, it basically is a bunch of bonuses for pillaging and plundering other civilizations. They also are not able to build settlers, but they can capture other players' settlers. Although there is a civic in their unique civic tree that allows their unique buccaneer commander unit to found one city on an adjacent coastal tile. So you can kind of get settlers. You can convert your buccaneer unit into a settler. And then Ed Teach's ability is basically every naval unit becomes a pirate ship. Every naval unit has the pirate ability and can attack other players' ships and trade ships without a declaration of war. Hence he is at war with everyone all the time. And they're all a lot of fun to play with. I'm really enjoying it.
God, the playthroughs I've seen have looked like they were really fun, especially once you get that navy up and you just go go around the coast. Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Oh yeah, and not only does the pirate ability allow you to attack enemy ships when you're not at war, but it lets you capture them if you defeat them. So like you can basically just you basically just send a small number of ships over, and once you start defeating enemy ships, you capture them, and they basically just become cannon fodder for the enemy to focus fire, while the rest of your ships keep attacking stuff.
That way, use them to capture even more ships. Make a super snowball.
Yeah, well, when they captured, they have like 5 or 10 hit points, so they're sitting ducks, and they can't move after they're captured.
Okay.
In most situations, unless you're just capturing a stray ship out in the open ocean somewhere, you capture it and then it's immediately attacked and sunk.
Yeah, they turn into masterful bait. Yes.
Yeah, so you basically turn them into cannon fodder. But in the early game, if you have Ed Teach as a leader for an antiquity civilization, at a time in the game where not a lot of players have more than like 1 or 2 naval units anyway, like it's basically just you get to freely double the size of your navy. Like you just go, you sink 1 or 2 of their ships, sail them back to your territory, or even into neutral land, because you can heal in unclaimed territory if you are adjacent to land. I think that might have been broken for a long time in Civ 7 because there was always the button to do it, but it didn't seem to work. It actually works now. So yes, you can definitely use that ability to expand your navy in the antiquity, and then if you have the setting that lets you keep all of your units in the next age, like you can go into the exploration age with a massive navy potentially. But is there anything else that you guys see in this update that looks worth talking about?
Oh, there was the one minor detail that Hawaii can now work ocean tiles in the exploration days, so their coastal starts are better.
Yes, and another update that ocean tiles, I think in general, are workable in the modern age, which I guess they weren't before. I hadn't really even noticed that, but I guess they weren't.
If they are workable, are they good enough to work?
Well, I mean, in
Hawaii, at least, apparently.
In the modern age, I assume that you would just be working them because there's literally no other tiles to work.
You can put them in buildings, can't you?
Yes, you can assign specialists, but you might fill those up too.
That's true. It could be a situation where until you get infrastructure, it's better than nothing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they might actually make it good if you invest enough.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, with the new harbor and stuff like that, it maybe makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we should actually, thinking about it now, flip the 2 next topics that we had.
Okay.
So I'll take the second one, and then Phil, you can take the first one. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
Because I think this kind of flows easily into the next topic, which is the question of, is Civ 7 good now? With the new update, between the new maps update in the previous major patch and the new Tides of Power thing, I am seeing a lot more content creators like making videos and posting, on Reddit and stuff like that, saying that the game is getting good now. And one of the things that was suggested by the YouTuber One More Turn in a video titled "A Single Change to the Tech Tree Fixed Civ 7," he basically says that the introduction to the harbor fixed one of the biggest issues with Civ 7, at least one of the biggest issues that he had, which is that it introduces a way for coastal or island start civs to have an option to generate production. Because the harbor generates production on water tiles on fishing boats, which was not something that you really could do in the vanilla game. There was the fishing key, which generated extra food, but there wasn't really any way to generate production from water tiles other than taking like the God of the Sea pantheon, which I pretty much always did whenever I was a waterfaring civilization. And like that one change is a pretty big change, because one of the things that it does is it adds more viable options for early game tech paths. Whereas previously, the big meta was go for, I think it was pottery to get the brickyard, and then to writing to build libraries. And some people argued that maybe going to monuments was also good, because influence is very powerful in Civ 7, and monuments generate influence. But like going straight into sailing was largely considered to be just not viable at all. And that has now changed, because sailing unlocks the harbor, which does allow you to generate production. We also have a lengthy Reddit thread in which I have posted a few of my own comments, posted by Daniel King 231 about a month ago, asking flat out, is Civ 7 better now? And there are a lot of people who are saying kind of yes and also no. There's a lot of people talking about how the UI is better, how, general gameplay feels better, how balance is much better, that the game is more enjoyable to play now than it was when it first launched. And some people saying that, no, until they get to the point where you can play as the same Civ throughout all of the ages, like it's still not worth playing. So that is still a major hang-up for a lot of people. And I basically posted in this the same kind of answer, which was that it really depends on what your fundamental problem was with Civ 7. Because if your problem was that you didn't like the UI, or you didn't like game balance, or you didn't feel like game pacing felt very good, or that the maps sucked, or any of those sorts of things, like all of those things are much better now. Are they good enough to bring back players who were turned off by it originally? Maybe not. That's up to you. But it is dramatically improved. And even if you disliked the ages system, there's now the continuity option. There's a lot more settings for changing the pacing. Very importantly to me, there's now the option to turn on a turn countdown. That gives you a 10 or 20 turn countdown before the age ends, so that it doesn't just suddenly end without any warning. That is a huge difference. I don't know why that wasn't in the game at vanilla launch. It really should have been. But if your big problem with the game is the age structure itself, then, the bad news is that has not changed. And you probably still will not like the game. Even with the ability to play as the same Civ through all three ages, as we were talking about at the start of this episode, like, it really depends on how they end up implementing that. Because if the ages system remains exactly as it is, and you just play as the same Civ in the next age, then people who dislike the ages system are probably still not going to like that very much. What my big personal hang-up is how much of the game's in-game history is just not playable because of the ages system. So, personal anecdote time for me when I play, typically the Antiquity Age ends a little bit before 1000 BCE, and then the Exploration Age starts at 400 CE. So that's a good 1400 years of very important history that I don't get to play in my games of Civ 7. And that is very frustrating. That's time that I don't get to build new cities, or finish wars, or build wonders, or, explore more of the map, or build infrastructure. And, I mean, in the case of that particular block of history, it's a pretty important block of history in terms of global history. I mean, that's basically the entire, Greek civilization and Roman Empire are just, that entire period of history is just gone in all of my games of Civ 7. And that's one of my big hangups. And that does not look like it's going to be changing anytime soon. But what are your two thoughts about what you're seeing from Civ 7? Does it seem like it is significantly improved to you?
See, I don't have a lot to add to what you said. Like, it's obviously better. Is it good enough? And that question is going to
Yeah, that's one of
depend on
those
the
ones that
individual.
you have to individually think, what were the things you hated, what was things you were hoping to improve? Did they get to that? I was like,
And are
there's a
they
lot of things
working
they've gotten. Yeah, yeah. Is it even on their roadmap yet? In some case, I know that even when I was just looking at the maps the other day, okay, that's so much better. It feels like each game can feel a bit different. There is a couple. I think there's at least one person pointing out that, or what they loved the antiquity age, but the other ages felt a little formulaic to them. And I think I
Yeah.
have seen that in some of them. That antiquity. They really thought out antiquity and how you get the game started, but they didn't quite get as much polish on the next two ages.
My
And
general
then it's still
experience with the game is I am really enjoying the Antiquity Age until I hit that first crisis. And then I kind of am like, in part because the crises are kind of annoying the way that they're implemented, because they always seem to happen like at the peak of the age, right? Like I spend all that time building up, military and cities and infrastructure. Now I'm ready to go on the warpath and conquer my neighbor and stuff like that. And then, the crisis happens. And
yeah, that's ugh.
yeah, and now all of a sudden, all of my cities are unhappy, or there's a bunch of new independent powers with massive militaries at my borders that I have to contend with, and I just know that the age is going to end soon. So, like, do I even have time at this point to do what I was planning on doing? So that's kind of been my experience. Is it's flowing great for like the first hour or two, and then the antiquity crisis happens, and like my interest in continuing the game kind of plummets. And it's not that I dislike the idea of the crisis in general. I just don't think that they are very well implemented. Like I'm okay with the idea of having like kind of a boss fight sort of thing at the end of an age to like challenge how robust your civilization is. I just don't like how they work, and especially how for some of them there's just not really anything that you can meaningfully do about it, right? Like like unlike past civilization games, you don't have like workers in your cities that you can reassign to change yields. You can't change governments in the middle of an age. You can't like negotiate with other civs for like resources or money or things like that to try to bail you out of like any kind of like economic depression or something like that. It's just like it feels like the crises happen, and you're, aside from like the like barbarian at the gates one where a bunch of new independent powers spawn with militaries and start attacking you. There's not really a whole lot of like affirmative stuff that you do to counter it. They just seemed like they're intended mostly for you to just kind of tank through them, which just isn't really compelling at all.
Yeah, no, just as like, and then you kind of sort of know that you're going to have to build up the army just to tank that and not do what you want to do, which is go do some conquering, which sucks. Yeah. So still timing issues, still game flow issues. But there's still a lot that's a lot better because every podcast we've done since the launch, we've always had something new and something better, and they're listening and doing the feedback, which is really important.
Yeah, and even in the cases where they're making changes that are contrary to the fundamental creative vision of the game, right? Like they are doing those
Yeah.
things to try to make people happy, right? And try to make this a game for everybody as best as they can, within the framework that they've already created. So, like kudos to them. There is definitely an effort being made. They are not just crossing their arms and saying, nope, this is the game we made. Either like it or don't play it, because we've seen that from other developers in the past. of some games, but not here.
Yeah, we wanted to try this new thing. We understand it's not for everybody, so we're gonna change some of the things that maybe we didn't originally want to, to get y'all back in playing.
Yeah, and it is a shame that they didn't maybe give the game a little bit more time to polish what they had. Because I think if the game had launched with more of these, updates implemented, if the game had launched with some of these UI updates that do a better job of showing how your yields are going to change when you place a district, right? That would have made a huge difference for a lot of people, right? If the game had launched with the continuity ages option where you keep more of your stuff between ages, that would have appeased a lot of people, right? If the game had launched with privateers, that would have made me a lot happier with the vanilla launch. Right?
It still does feel like they pushed it out probably at least 6 months too early.
And potentially held some things back for, DLC and stuff like that. And that's the frustrating thing about all these games having to be live services now is...
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of criticism when DLCs first started becoming a thing that, they're cutting things out of the actual game to sell it to you later. And in a lot of cases, early on, that wasn't really the case, right? But nowadays, it genuinely is. There are games that are shipping now where the stuff is, on the disc or in the day one install file. But you have to wait a couple months to buy a DLC key to unlock it, right? And data miners are finding those things, right?
Yeah. And then everybody's like, what the bleep?
And another understated feature that they added is there's a crap ton of difficulty settings. And this is another thing that I've been wanting in Civ games for a very long time, and they just now finally did it, which is that you can go basically line item by line item and change all of the different things that affect game difficulty. So in past Civs, when you would go up a difficulty level, it would AIs would get more units, they'd get more settlers, they'd get free walls on their cities, they would get faster science, faster culture, more gold, faster growth, all of those things. They would get all of those things when you would go up a difficulty setting. And on top of that, you would also get buffed, right? Your science would be slower, your gold would be less, you would have less happiness, right? And all of those things would stack together and they would compound, and it made going from one difficulty level to the next one in older Civ games, in my opinion, way harder than it needed to be. And one of my favorite things
that was just the sheer volume of steps, though. They didn't have enough difficulties if they were implementing it that way.
Right, but now you can go and basically adjust every one of those things independently. You can go into the settings and you can change how fast the AI progresses through the tech tree. You can change how fast you progress through the tech tree. You can set the aggressiveness level of independent civilizations. You can set how much damage is dealt to your naval units in the Antiquity and Exploration Age when you sail out into the ocean, deep ocean, before you've unlocked the tech that lets you do that, right? You can change that in the difficulty options now.
Yeah, instead of it just being a handful of things you could change at the beginning when you set up, now this is super granular system. There's so many tiny details you can adjust.
Yeah, it's more akin to for people who play a sports game where you have the AI sliders where you can change all of the different AI settings that affect how hard the game is. Talking about a football game, you can set how accurate the quarterbacks are. You can set how good players are at tackling. You can set how often penalties occur. Right, it's more like that now, and that's an awesome change. That's, in my opinion, is long overdue. And it's one of those things that kind of flies under the radar, but it's also something that can really improve the pacing of the game too, right? Because you can, right, if you find that you're just flying through the tech tree and these ages are ending way too quickly, you can just go in and you can slow technology progress for every single Civ, including yourself, to make the ages last longer, if that's something you want to do. And stuff like that is just really awesome to be able to experiment with. And I've been tweaking I've been going through and kind of tweaking all these settings to find out what works well for me. Where like some settings I might leave on the Viceroy difficulty. Some settings I go up to Sovereign. And then there's even a few where I'm playing around with putting them, just those settings at Immortal. And like one of the things that I really like to do is I like to slow down all of my stuff, like give myself handicaps without having to give the AI players all of these free bonuses, because that's always been one of my pet peeves with the difficulty levels in Civilization games, is that the higher difficulties just front load the AIs with more free stuff at the start of the game, and once you catch, go ahead.
Yeah, you want the AI to still be as good as it is, but you don't want to give it that massive amount of bonuses. But the handicapping yourself, because like in Civ 6, you're both getting the handicap and giving them the bonuses, and sometimes that's a little too much.
Right, but also like once you catch up to them or you start capturing their stuff, like you leapfrog so much further than you would have on a lower difficulty setting, right? Because if you capture their cities, you're getting a much more developed city, right, with more districts and buildings and stuff like that than you would have gotten if you were playing on a lower difficulty level, right? So once you catch up and like conquer your first neighbor, like you're set for the rest of the game, basically. And that might not necessarily be the case anymore, right? Because now you can handicap yourself, but not necessarily give the AIs all this free stuff. And you can handicap yourself more than you give the AI its free stuff as well. So, yes, Civ 7 is better, to answer the question of this Reddit thread. Is it good? That's still up for debate, and that will vary from person to person. But
is it better enough for you to go purchase also?
Yeah, I think that's a bigger decision point than if you already have the game and just want to check it again.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, if you already own the game, like I would definitely recommend, going back and checking it out.
Yeah, give it another swing.
Especially, play around with the pirates. They're a lot of fun. Every game is improved by having pirates.
See that ship over there? I don't want to see it anymore.
Now it's mine.
Or that. Somewhat less bloodthirsty. Maybe instead of ships, maybe cities. Maybe using ships to hit the cities. How many cities should you have? And there is a video to go with this from Van Bradley, who suggests roughly 2 per age rule. I think you should have all the cities.
That's what the conquering army's for.
Yeah, maybe some of them could be called towns, though. That's true.
Now, when you say all of the cities, you mean all of the other players' cities?
Yes. Although, yeah, towns are necessary, so I shouldn't say all the cities.
Yeah, well, you don't want necessarily all of your towns, all of your settlements to be cities, because a lot of your economy actually does come from towns. So basically, all of the production in a town, because towns don't have their own build queues, is converted to gold, which you then use to buy infrastructure in towns. So if you had all cities, you would likely be pretty close to being bankrupt most of the time. But also, it costs gold to convert towns to cities, and that scales up with each new city and gets very expensive. Like in the Antiquity Age, it is not necessarily feasible to spend 1,500 gold to convert a town into a third or fourth city. That's just not necessarily something that you would.
Yeah, not an efficient use of money.
Right, especially when that can buy like 5 buildings or 3 or 4 military units. Uh, Basically, what Van Bradley suggests, and which I kind of agree with, is like you kind of have to look at what do you want to do with the underlying territory. Because there are certain things that you can do in cities that you can't do in towns. The biggest one is that towns can basically only build warehouse buildings. They cannot build any science or culture or happiness or influence buildings. So if you want those yields instead of just gold, then you need a city. The other big thing is wonders. If you want wonders, then those need to be built in cities because towns cannot build wonders. And since most of the wonders have like terrain or district adjacency requirements, you are not likely to be able to build all of the wonders that you want like in your capital. Also, just because of space limitations, there might not be enough tiles to do that. So you need another 1 or 2 cities in order to on different terrain types in order to be able to build wonders, and that is probably the biggest consideration.
So was that just 2 cities per age, or was there a ratio for the towns too?
Oh, and the rest that you have are towns insofar as you
So
can make use of them.
yeah, so each age
So
has a city as a settlement cap. So basically, you should try to be at or even slightly above the settlement cap at all times. One thing that I
Yeah.
wasn't entirely clear on from Van Bradley's video is, does he just mean 2 cities, period, or 2 new cities? Does he suggest adding 2 new cities with each age? So you'd have 2 in antiquity, 4 in exploration, and 6
Your
in
cap
modern?
goes up, right? So I would presume so does your city count over time.
Well, but not necessarily, because it depends on when you change ages, cities other than your capital are downgraded back into towns unless you take a particular legacy perk that lets you keep those as cities. So I was not entirely clear on whether Van Bradley was recommending that you should keep your old cities in each new age and then add 2 new cities on top of that, or if he was just like, yeah, just go ahead and let them turn back into towns and make new cities.
Hmm.
But there's basically 2 ways to increase your city count in new ages. One of them is to take the particular legacy bonus that keeps all the old cities. The other is to change your capital. Because I believe the way that works is your old capital stays a city, and then your new capital, if it was a town, gets upgraded to a city. So if you're going from, say, antiquity to exploration, and maybe you had 3 cities in antiquity, but all of those get downgraded back into towns. If you switch capitals, then your old capital is a city, and then also the new capital, which might have previously been a city or maybe it was a town all along, that gets upgraded to a city, and then you have 2 cities. Or you can keep all 3 of your old cities and take a town as your new capital, and now you have 4 cities going into the exploration age. I'm trying to look back, skim through, and see if he had mentioned like total city counts.
Well, it does. It does seem like if
Now
the
that you
settlement
mention
cap
it.
is going up, you really do want to keep going up with it, because I know that was one of the things with Civ 6 is always be building more cities, because it just increases your yields, increases everything. You keep going, you keep going.
Oh yeah, you want to use your cap regardless. It's just what you're using it on. But if you have more cap, it makes sense that you could have your ratio of cities to towns stay similar and have more cities.
Because
So
there's
that's
things
why I
you could do in this.
presumed that the city count was going up. But
Yeah,
I
because
guess
there's.
to make a Marathon fan's point, that isn't necessarily the case based on just what was said.
You might want to add at least one new city per era, because there's cities have stuff they can do that the towns don't. You do need the towns to boost the food and other, all your economy bars, but you still need the things that the cities can do as well. I'm trying to imagine only having the two cities through all three eras, and I'm going, you need at least a couple more.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the case. So skimming back through later, it looks like he's going into the modern age with 4 cities, and then is talking about planning out where to do additional cities. So yeah, it looks like it's 2 per age, cumulative, is his suggestion.
Yeah. Okay.
And I do kind of agree that 2 or 3 per age is probably in that sweet spot, right? Like it's a balancing act between gold.
And these are always rules of thumb, not like you adhere to this no matter what.
Yeah, it's always going to vary, right? And it also depends on your settlement limit, and different civs have slightly different settlement limits as well. At least I think that's the case, because I've seen that like some civs seem to have more settlement cap increases in their unique civics trees than others do. Like I think Rome has more than most other antiquity civilizations. I could be wrong about that, but that seemed to be the impression that I was getting. But it basically depends on, you have to keep a balancing act, right? If you have too many towns and not enough cities, you're going to be lacking in science and culture and possibly happiness and influence. And if you have too many cities and not enough towns, you're going to have less food and less gold, and your cities are going to grow more slowly, which means you're going to be getting fewer tiles, and stuff like that, and fewer specialists. Of course, Civ 7 is kind of funny and different from other Civ games in that you can effectively build new population, because you can always just build a new district, and that claims new territory and increases the population of the city. But there are, of course, limits to that. You can only build so many districts. Any other comments on number of cities?
Nope.
I feel like we covered most of the important stuff.
Should be good, at least for that.
Okay, well, I think that was all of our topics for today.
Oh, didn't we have the one about the single change to the tech tree?
Oh, we kind of already talked about that. We talked about
Yeah,
the
we covered
harbor.
that with the harbor.
So
okay.
So
Okay.
it's just
Okay.
we
Oh,
won't
yeah.
go through
Okay. It kind of got
the Mario
focused
strategy.
in. Okay.
Yeah, we swapped things around, and it was kind of a misleading title, because they said it was a change to the tech tree when really it was the addition of a new building.
Oh, okay. That's all
But
right.
the idea is that it makes different paths on the tech tree more viable. I think is the reason why he kind of put it in
Oh,
context
yeah.
of being a tech tree change.
Now you might actually want to use sailing early.
Yes, you can go straight into. Yeah, the point was you can go straight into sailing now, because you can build the harbor and get a butt ton of production from fishing boats instead of having to do brickyard and building mines and quarries.
It also just makes water starts more playable.
In general, yeah.
That's part of his like part of his stance as well.
Yeah, whether or not, regardless of whether you're going straight to sailing, right? You're going to go to sailing eventually, which means you're going to have the harbor, which means you're going to be able to get more production from your water tiles. Whether you do that like ASAP as soon as the game starts or get it later in the age, it's something that will improve all coastal starts.
And yeah, if you're on the coast, you probably do want to take advantage of that sooner than later.
It made the water more useful.
I mean,
yeah, considering how useful it was to actual nations.
Yeah, in real life, very
you do want
useful.
it to matter.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There are also more water resources now, which means expanding onto water is also generally more viable in Civ 7 than it was at launch. But it really depends on the resource distribution, right? If you're on the coast but all of your resources are inland, then you're probably going to be expanding inland anyway. But if you do have water resources like fish or whales or whatever, then you will expand onto those tiles and build fishing boats and then want to have a harbor to make them generate more production. But if you're going inland to get like spices and iron and stuff like that, then you don't need to get the harbor right away, and you can wait on researching sailing. Like in so many things with civilization games, it depends on the map.
Which is good. You don't want your choices to always be the same, regardless of what's presented.
Oh, and it
very interesting.
And it also, all of that applies to being on navigable rivers as well. All right, because another one of the big differences in Civ 7 is you can be inland, but if you're on a navigable river, then you can still build water infrastructure on that river. So you can still build fishing boats and the harbor and all that stuff in order to take advantage of the navigable river.
Speaking of things that it depends on, things like links of episodes, because sometimes we ramble on. So thank you for listening to episode 451 of PolyCast. I am Makalo, and with me as usual, Mega Bears fan.
Oh, me first again. Uh-oh, I didn't have anything. I still don't have anything.
And the Neon team.
Re-educating and relocating the populations into the soil.
That's one way of putting it. Wow. A little dark.
Well, EU5 and whatnot. It is, in fact, dark.
Also want to say that I think this will probably be our final episode for this calendar year. From what Firaxis has said on their dev updates and patch notes, it sounds like they're going to also kind of be slowing down for the holidays anyway. So there's going to be fewer updates, less news to talk about, and so forth. So we also have stuff to do for the holidays. So this will be the last recording for the 2025 calendar year, and we will plan to resume in January again in 2026. Although, if you are jonesing for more Civilization strategy content, I am still working on Civilization 7 guides on my blog. I do have a new one, which we haven't had time to talk about yet, for the Marian civilization. And I am definitely planning on getting quickly onto writing guides for the Tonga and the Republic of Pirates, because they are a lot of fun to play with, and I definitely want to write guides for them as well. So those might be available by the end of the year. We'll see.